Hello and welcome to another episode of the LendAPI Partner Podcast. Today, my guest is Austin Carroll, who is founder and CEO at Warrant. Austin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, Austin, how did your business get started?
So I started business while I was at Brex, which is a very well-known neobank in the startup space. So while I was there, I was in charge of financial product marketing, but every single thing that I did needed to get approved by our legal, our compliance team, and also by our external partner bank. So a lot of the times I felt like I was just sourcing approvals instead of actually doing the marketing that was going to really move the needle for my company. So that's why I decided to start Warrant. We started last July. Really just wanted there to be a better way for marketers to get instant feedback on their marketing materials and then facilitate approvals for them. So they didn't have to go manually track down every piece of material and find out if it's been approved yet. So that's why we started Warrant, released our first product in September, and then just recently launched our product to the public just 2 weeks ago.
Wow, that's super exciting. Well, glad to have you here on the podcast. And I always love it when a story is like that, where you basically felt the pain yourself. And I remember in the days working at a financial institution, like how long it can take for everyone to get on the same page and to get everyone to sign off and then back and forth. So it sounds like a really good solution. Now, what is the number one use case that you solve for?
So when we first started the product, we thought that people would be using us to facilitate their approvals because that was such a large pain point that I experienced at my organization at Brex, and then before that at Mercury and at Capital One. However, what we realized is what people are primarily using Warrant for is to demystify the regulations and how they apply to their business. So I really thought that approvals were a huge piece of this, but at the end of the day, there isn't really any resources for marketers about what they can say and what they can't say. And that sounds pretty simple, but we're one of the only platforms where you can actually ask a question and the AI will respond and answer in a way that is tailored to your business. It's basically like having an AI compliance officer at your fingertips. This kind of education is just a huge gap for marketers. And that's why we see the average tenure of marketers in financial services only being a year and a half because of this frustration, because of this lack of education. So it's exciting to see that that is the primary use case for Warrant.
So you thought it was going to be just that flow of getting the sign off, but then you realize, hey, you know what? Sometimes people are unsure whether something is right or compliant or not. And actually, that's where the use case came in more, where you can ask the AI, like, is this right? Is this compliant? Will this do? And I assume that also helps with the approval process, right? Once you get that confirmation.
Absolutely. So, for instance, let's say you're doing a billboard campaign. My last company, Brex, we were known for our billboards. Say you're working on a national billboard campaign. There's deadlines there. You can't just spin up a billboard and have it go live the next day. So, if you were using Warrant, you could brainstorm Warrant. You can say, hey, I'm thinking about saying this. Brex is the best bank account ever. And it will very kindly let you know that you can't say best bank account ever because that's an absolute claim. And it will tell you a little bit more information about the regulations that you're operating within. That way, by the time it goes to design, you have a really strong sense that this material, this concept will probably be approved. Then you can spend the time having designers, and throughout all of that process, Warrant is there. You can upload it, get that instant feedback, and then facilitate approvals within Warrant so everything is tracked. That way, if the regulators ever come after you, you have documentation of everyone that approved it and also what the AI review was advising you to do. So it's kind of like that full cycle approval process, but we're the only marketing compliance tool that's throughout the entire creation of documents. Traditionally, marketing compliance is that afterthought. You're like, oh, we're about to go live. Let's get legal sign off. But we have implemented Warrant into every stages of that creation process.
That is pretty cool to say, hey, right from the inception of the idea to already involve that and say, hey, is this even possible? Can I say this? Can I do this? Is this within regulation? Before you start even spending energy on getting that billboard or getting everything rolling, that is quite useful to have that right at the beginning, have that assistance in understanding if it can work or not. Now, Austin, can you tell me one of your favorite customer stories?
Yeah, absolutely. One of our first customers is a fintech startup called Future Money. Future Money is really great. They're basically allowing you to create a 401k for your children,
Hmm.
which is great in terms of, generational wealth transfer. Future Money, they are very smart guys on the compliance standpoint. So they know a ton about compliance. They've worked in this industry forever. And my first outreach to them was letting them know that they had a piece of restricted imagery on their website. They were using an up and to the right arrow, which, if you didn't know, is actually basically illegal to promote financial products in the United States. You can't just put a giant arrow up and to the right. You also can't use bundles of cash. The cash flying emoji is very common. So that just kind of goes and shows you, like, they were using this as a motif throughout their entire website and they had no idea. And that just really shows you they could have potentially, been in trouble for that, either by their partner bank or by a regulator. And it just goes to show, like, it's so simple. These things are so small, but if you don't have another pair of eyes on them, if you're not focused on them all the time, these things can slip into marketing that goes public, and it can be a real problem if you don't catch it soon enough. So that was a really great customer story. They've been our customer since the beginning now, and we're constantly reviewing their web pages and making sure something like that doesn't slip through the cracks again. But yeah, that was a great time, and I'm glad we could support them and make sure that everything's compliant from here on out.
That is a great customer story, and you never know how that's going to play out, right? When you tell someone, you put someone on the spot and sort of say, "I don't think that's right," but glad to hear that they were good sports about it and sort of said, "Hey, thank you for letting me know that." And that probably also opened the door to sort of say, "Hey, can you do that more often? Tell me if I'm off a little bit, or when I'm doing things that I'm not supposed to do." And it seems like that is exactly what Warren could do for them.
Yeah, and honestly, at the end of the day, like, we're all in this together. No one sets out, except maybe a few, the
Yeah,
bad actors. But for the
right.
most part, no one is setting out to mislead customers with their marketing. That's definitely not what they're trying to do. So it's exciting to have, like, another pair of eyes on your materials to really make sure that that's not what you're doing.
Everyone obviously is, yeah, trying to do the right thing, but sometimes it's very hard to figure out where the line is and what is allowed and what's not allowed. So it is super helpful to have a co-pilot or an assistant there that can help you out and tell you, maybe hold off on this one, maybe change it a little bit here. That is very interesting. Thank you, Austin, for telling that story, and thank you for being on the podcast. This was very insightful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
Well, this was another episode of the LendAPI Partner Podcast. If you want to know more about Warrant, look on the LendAPI website.